he would take us out for dinner, and we would have dinner until midnight. Depending on which country we went, I remember one time I went to Namibia, and he went fishing with Semyoma. I actually took some pictures of them seated by the water. They didn't have shoes. They had their feet in the water, seated on some chairs and with fishing rods. But it seems there wasn't much fishing going on, but there was a lot of talking, But and we were around there with them roasting fish, which they were fishing in there, getting the fish out and roast them on the sand. It was very nice. I have no right to say I know him much as a politician, because I didn't engage him in politics. But as an individual, looking at another individual operating in his sphere and being around him, I thought it was unfortunate that things turned out the way it did, because my own judgment as a person, most of the things he did, he meant well. He was gifted in approach to life. He had a very good, extraordinary intellect. He had a capacity for articulation that is above normal, and he had spiritual discipline. His understanding of things, each time I heard him explain, he could start on the bigger picture and then show you how it's connected even to the smaller one. So his global understanding was also very good. So I couldn't fault him on some of the small things, some of the things that I hear some people criticize him on. Actually, in my own assessment, most of the people that criticize him are not fit even to untie his shoe. That's how I rate him. Whether he's performing on an international scale or whether he has gone to the village and talking to the village head or headman, or some lowly person. That was him. So you don't expect such a person to reduce himself to some of the things that people talk about. His fatherly nature, I saw it even in the home. He would, when I came in, his kids were still young, and you could see a father mentoring his kids, allowing them time to play, but you could see the care in bringing them up as well as good kids. He would hold birthday parties for his kids. Almost every year he would go for such birthday parties, and he would ensure that it would be like any other birthday party. Kids starting with jumping castles when they were young, until when they had grown up, have disco parties, having performances, happening there. So in the home, he was a real father. There was one picture which I missed. I always regret having missed that picture. We were in Singapore, and he went out shopping with this young man, Tino, Robert Jr. And I followed, but I just followed. I left my camera. And he went into a clothing shop. And he was buying clothes for Tino. I remember him kneeling down, trying to put on the clothes for Tino, tightening his belt on his knees whilst he was doing it around his son. And I said, that's a great picture, but stupid me, I had left my camera. So he was a model father. You go to the office. Of course, in the office it requires people to be more serious, but even in being serious, he was, in my view, somebody who, if he agrees to listen to you, he would wholeheartedly listen to you. When I trained photography, they told me that you must talk to your subject. I call him subject in this context because he was my subject. You talk to your subject so that they relax and they project their true self in the portrait. I remember the short talk I had with him before the portrait. I said to him, I want what I will call Indoda Sibyl posture. And I saw him smiling because I knew that would work on his mind. What is he talking about? I said, I want Indoda Sibyl posture. And he said, what is that? And I said, I want your chest out, and you look straight at me, with your chest out. That's Indoda Sibyl posture. Which he tried to do, and I think it came out well. He looked younger in the portrait than he actually is. And if you look carefully at that portrait, if there are any still around, you will see, I think, on the top right corner of his lenses, there is a white patch. That was the mistake of a photographer, my mistake, because the studio lights, which were at the back, were reflecting in that corner, but I didn't notice it when I was taking the photo. I only saw that when I had already done the photo. So I kept my fingers crossed that he will not notice this. And we took the photographs for approval. I remember he looked at the picture for a while. And he said, well, I don't know whether it's the camera or it's the photographer, but this is nice. And I said, oh, thank God. So it was approved. But it has been there. I don't know whether people have been noticing it, but it's there. I don't know whether the moment I will mention had a huge effect on him or on me. We were in Singapore, and we had gone to fetch, I think, Bona and the grandson. And we were called to his room to take the pictures of the grandson. And then I went in there. He was holding the grandson on his lap. I remember the picture was published, and I was taking pictures of him. He was looking at the grandson. The grandson happened to lift a clenched fist like that. That's the picture I clicked. And he was smiling, he loved it. And then in a flash, in a moment, I began to think about him. And this moment, a grandson, and I think the whole country loved that moment for him, just to experience, to hold the grandson. Maybe the moment worked on me much more than it did to him, but I just thought it was a great moment for him, just to be in that position, seeing his grandson, an active grandson on his lap. It must have been great, I think. After 2000, or I would say 2005, this issue about land, we would go to conferences at the African Union, other summits, and when we get there, issue of Zimbabwe, the talk would be, is Zimbabwe on the agenda? And most cases it was always on the agenda, even when we didn't expect it to be on the agenda. So I thought he was fighting a very tough battle. I was not participating in the summits, but just looking, you could see somebody who is fighting a big fight, fighting almost the whole world. And then you look around him, you didn't quite see the support coming. If anything, even other African leaders were kind of avoiding him. Even by his own submission, some were saying in private, they will say, we support you. But please understand that we can't do it publicly. So that fight was huge. And I don't think there is any other struggle that compared with that. I could see even his stature, he even shrunk a bit, lost weight. There's a picture which I took of him. I think it was 2008. I could be wrong. But that picture actually, haunts me because he was wearing his olive green safaris, and I think we were in Cheche Pingo or something like that. And then we had just arrived. That time, I think we were doing about 3 rallies in a day, and it was very hot. And we had just arrived at a venue for a rally, and he had gone around greeting the masses, and he was sweating so much. He took a handkerchief, and I took a shot of him when he was wiping his face like this. His armpits were wet, and it was that picture, to me showed somebody who is working very hard. GNU, we had this other team, but maybe they should be honest and say how they worked with the old men during GNU. I would be surprised at the manner in which you would be handling the Chamisas, the Mtambaras, the beat is. In my view, looking from a distance, he was like a father to them, mentoring them even. I remember one time we were swearing in the, it could have been the Human Rights Commission, where we had Professor Reg Austin. And after the group photo outside, or whilst I was arranging them for the group photo, he was telling Professor Reg Austin that please find time to tell the young man, and the young man was the Deputy Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Mtambara, Professor Mtambara. He said, the young man is always asking me what was what was going on at Lancaster. Please find time to fill in and so on. And you could sense that he was not handling them like opponents at all. I learned something from him. I miss his, can I say, finesse in doing things. He has attention to detail, you know. Yeah. If you took him to some place and he has to write the visitor's book, yeah? Open the page. Normally you would do it like this, spread it out, and then he would write. Most people, if they were to do that, they would rush. But he would write meticulously and then revise, you know, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. When you see him start writing his signature, you know he's done, and he would really, it's like waltz dancing. So that's how he trained himself. He should have been a priest. Yeah. So easy. I was honored to be close to him. I was honored to. I remember one time we went to Japan. What was that town? In Japan. I'm forgetting the town in Japan. There was a summit in Japan. He was walking from one place where there was the plenary to another one, and he had a group of officials accompanying him. I was walking behind them, and from that direction there was some African guy who was coming in the opposite direction. He gave way for him and let the president and his team pass, and he came to me. He held my hand and stopped me, and he said, "My brother, you see that old man there? That is a great man for Africa. That is a great man for Africa, standing for Africa. He should be respected." And he went away. I looked at the man. I don't know what country he came from. He didn't even say. And then I continued following. Then I was thinking about this, what he had just said. I would encourage Africa to revisit what Mugabe was saying. They should revisit what he was saying. before they proceed. It might make them wiser.
Iwe neni tenye basa.